I'll get it going here. Hey, we're recording. Perfect. Well, thank you guys. If you happen to see Brad jump in now that everything's minimized, let me know. Hopefully I'll be able to see it. It'll pop up for me somewhere. Anyway, so we put together a new member mentor checklist, which is basically going to be the, responsibilities of the mentor. Historically, I think, the idea was that you would, as a mentor, meet with your mentee one time, kind of show them the back office, how to enter leads, and then maybe sit with them at lunch. And that was kind of the extent of it. It's going to be much more robust now. And I think it will likely take more than one meeting. It can certainly be, Zoom. You don't have to be in person. But there are just things that we're finding that, people are getting well into their membership. And then, at their first review or sometime, during their first 6 months to a year, we're finding out, hey, I didn't understand that I couldn't wear jeans to the meeting, or that I was supposed to be paying for lunch online before I show up. And all of these little details that people don't really understand. So this will hopefully help. You can see I made little boxes here. If you want to actually use it as a checklist and go through and check it all off, you certainly can. So following the initial introduction, which I talked to you guys about, I told you, sort of how that was going to happen. The first thing you'll do is respond to that email. Hey, John, nice to meet you. I'm looking forward to getting together with you, and schedule a meeting with them. There should be at least one meeting in person so that you get to know this person, either go to their facility or meet for coffee, whatever you guys decide. You'll need to, my idea behind this was, I think you should have them either be in front of their computer or have their laptop with them. Have it open, have them log in, because some of this, I want you to kind of walk through them actually in the system. So go to the back office, show them where to enter leads, talk through what is a direct lead, what is intertrade, what is market information, show them how each of those get entered. You guys both know where to find your leads report?
Yes.
Okay, good. Show them how to access their leads report. Tell them they can, check it occasionally to see how they're doing, kind of check their numbers. Take them to, under member information, there's a resources tab, and that has been updated, I believe, as of today. Getting rid of some of the outdated information, putting all the new information there. The one thing that people always ask about that is listed under resources is, I believe it's called member and associate contact information. And if you click on that, it's a spreadsheet of every member, their email, their phone, what division they're in. So show them that. And what I've done in the past, what I used to do when I actually worked in an office, was I would print that out and give it to all of my coworkers and basically tell them, hey, if you need any of these services, go to this list first. Let me know if you do, because, we're going to be reviewed every 6 months, and it helps get other people involved in the leads process. Review their profile. That's one piece I think a lot of people miss. So you might also just check your own profile and make sure that you're up to date. Take them to their page, show them where they can add their social media links. They can change their own phone, email, right? That information. The one piece that we have to have the office do, which we're working on trying to get this figured out, is there is a place where you can enter, first of all, a little bit about your company. And second of all, what kind of leads are you looking for? And a lot of people miss that, but some of the more tenured members who are used to using the back office want to be able to go, especially with the new members, right? And say, okay, what kind of leads does this person look for? So you can tell them to send that information to Bob and Laura, and they'll put it on their profile for them. Hopefully we'll be able to. The reason that we didn't do that before, that historically, was because they wanted to review what people were putting in that information. Because if we had two people that actually offered small group benefits, right? So let's say Ted USI offers it, but so did Kathy. So really, Ted shouldn't have that listed on his profile, right? His classification is group benefits, commercial insurance. So he shouldn't really have anything about small group benefits. So it was just a way for them to kind of monitor what, people were asking for. That makes sense.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Once you've been contacted by the onboarding chair, that person will reach back out a second time regarding the new member introduction. We're changing it up a little bit. We're going to let the sponsor, who's the person who brings the member into the organization, we're going to give them first right of refusal to do the new member introduction, because I've always felt like when I brought in a new member, that's kind of your reward. I like doing the new member introductions because, you know, I like sharing information. You usually know the most about that person anyway. So I just feel like that should be the sponsor, you know, sort of the last, you know, big responsibility for the sponsor. If they don't want to do it, it would go to the mentor next. So if they're out of town, don't want to do it, whatever, then it would go to the mentor. And then if neither person can do it in a timely manner, because we're going to try to get them done within the first 3 months, then we would just go out to the general membership and find someone to do the new member introduction. Okay, so next is communicating. Oh, here comes Brad. The value and significance of sort of this list of information and policies. So, you know, walking them through how to get to know the other members, right? One-on-ones, show up a little early for a meeting, stay late from time to time if you can. Ideally, what I would like to see happen is, I think historically, we've always felt like, yes, we want this person to be accountable and take some initiative, right, to dig in and figure out how things work. At the same time, I think because dues now are relatively substantial, right? We're up to about $2,000 a year, so a couple $100 a month. We're starting to get feedback and feel like we are kind of on the hook to provide value pretty quickly to the member, right? We used to say, oh, it'll take a couple years. You know, the first year you'll kind of get settled in and you'll start to know people and then you'll start to get some business. I don't think we can tell people that anymore, because we're losing people within the first year because they're not seeing value. So it's kind of on us to help them get acclimated as quickly as they can. So one of the things I would like to suggest is that you walk through the member list with them. By the time you're sitting and meeting with them, talking through what they do, you should have an idea of, you know, who are your targets. Pick out the top 3 people they need to know and make an introduction for them. Either walk them up to them at lunch or make an email introduction for them to kind of bridge that gap and help them along just a little bit. Sometimes people are a little more reluctant or shy, or, you know, aren't as comfortable necessarily just going up to someone. So I think it's really helpful to really facilitate those introductions when you can. Help them also understand realistic expectations. So just because you're in the group doesn't mean you get all the business, that you still have to earn the business. The idea is that you'll get an opportunity to propose your service if another company's looking for your services. But it's not a guarantee of business, right? I mean, it's kind of like when we lost the TV guy because the members didn't automatically leave the prior member who had a 15-year history with the organization and really deep relationships. I think his expectation was, well, everybody's going to leave and come to me, and that didn't happen, so he left. So just kind of talk through, you know, what really to expect. Talk through how valuable it is to turn in your leads every week by Friday. I really push that home with them. If you have to, you know, remind them to put in a calendar reminder or something so that they don't forget. If it's possible for them to have an associate, we're talking about maybe beefing up the responsibilities of the associates and having them potentially have a vote. I don't know. There's some things in the work with regard to associate members to get more participation and to really extend the value, because you're paying for that person to come in as a member. You know, besides just helping you build business, are there other ways to access you know, accountability through them besides just the dollars that we're getting? And then we talked about, there used to be a committee. Apparently it was before my time, because I don't remember this, but apparently at some point there was a committee for the associates, and they would get together and talk about, you know, networking and, other things they could do to help bolster the membership within exec. So we're kind of talking through some different options around that.
Shelley,
One
can I
thing,
add some? Shelley, can I add
yes,
something in
you
regards
may.
to the associate piece?
Yes.
And it wasn't by any state of brilliance; it was just luck. But it also helps mitigate when we do turn over a major member and an associate member ends up being elevated. When I onboarded SkyPoint, and remember Tina, and Tina was the primary and Steve was the secondary, right? The associate. But they both were willing to do the onboarding and training together. So when Tina got reassigned within her company and it elevated Steve, we didn't have to redo it. Didn't have
Absolutely.
to go. And so sometimes the associate member just sits back and doesn't go through the same training, and they should, because both of those people should be doing, in my opinion, both of them should be entering leads.
Which is true, but then we do have some members, and I think if you read in the bylaws about associates, technically they're not assigned a mentor. I don't think, in my mind, that doesn't mean they can't participate with the mentor.
No, I agree.
Right?
I agree. The
So
bylaws show it.
yeah, they don't get their own mentor, but I don't think that means they can't participate in the onboarding process. So I think you're right. I think we definitely should encourage people to have their associates involved if possible.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know, I had no idea within, 4 months that the member would have to be reassigned and the company reprioritized. So I was fortunate that there was not a retraining based on that transition.
Perfect. Something that's new, and I don't know if you guys have seen this yet. It should be up on the website. I think they're going to mention it potentially this week. We have a guest policy now. It's always been kind of an unwritten policy, but not every meeting do we allow guests, outside guests, right? And this isn't your associate. This is, hey, I want to bring another one of my employees, or my wife, my husband, whatever. So there's certain meetings out of the year that guests are allowed, and you can't just bring someone without running it through Bob first. It has to go through Bob. He will make sure, again, that there's no conflict of interest. We are having a situation with one of our members right now where, you basically get two members. You get a member and associate, and we have a member right now who, there's 4 or 5 people that show up for lunch on any given, right? They kind of rotate around, and we're having the conversation with them. Okay, no, you need to decide who's the member, who's the associate. Those 2 people are the people that can show up, and the associate, right, can kind of step in when the member can't show up. But it gets really confusing because people are like, well, who's the member? And now there's this new person. And so we've formalized it, and they're going to roll that out just so that people understand how guests work with the group. Remind people about the dress code. It is also under resources. The big thing right now is just no jeans. And when we recently redid the dress code, we had some people that wanted jeans, but obviously the majority did not. So we don't allow them yet, but at some point I think we'll probably review that again. But just a good reminder. We're also going to have a reminder to people. We're having a influx of people sitting on their cell phones during lunch. And I'll tell you, it's very, very visible when you're up front, when you look out and 30% of the group are staring at their phones. And when we invite speakers in, they don't get paid for doing this. They're doing this to be nice, basically, and they get a lunch. So we're going to have gentle-ish reminders, no cell phones during the meetings. I think Adrienne is going to start fining people if she sees you on your phone, right, during the general lunch. We're going to ask if you need to check, and we understand people need to check occasionally their cell phone. If you'll just get up and walk out for a minute and then come back in, rather than sitting. We're having people sitting and scrolling on their phone. So we just need to kind of rein that in a little bit, I think. Discuss with them excused versus unexcused absence. That's pretty simple. Opportunities to participate. So getting involved with the divisions, volunteering for the golf tournament and, auction, all of those kinds of things. Reminding people that we have a dues payment process on July 1st of every year, that's when dues are due. And going forward, we're not going to have monthly payments and that kind of thing. So we did some things during COVID, which is fine. And we're going to, grandfather those in. But going forward, it's going to be pay in full July 1st. And if they come in, so I just had this question this last week. We have a member that started in January. So he's only paying January through June. He thought he was paying for the whole year. And I was like, no, you're paying through June, and then you'll get another invoice come July for a whole year. And
so no matter what time of year they join, we'll prorate that for them.
We prorate it. And here's the reason. We've always operated on this budget number, assuming, because historically everybody has paid in full up front. And the reason for that is you're paid through the end of June the following year. So if you choose to leave, that's still money in our budget. With the other options, if someone leaves, mid-year, we never collect the rest of that money. So this money we thought we had in our budget, we don't actually have in our budget. So it kind of messes us up. So that's going forward, that's gonna be the plan. We'll see how that goes. I talked to them about committee assignments, how it changes every 6 months, where they go on the back office to see what committees they're on. Talk them through, which committees, what they all do. And then next leads into the leads committee process. So the first 6 months that someone is a member, they're kind of expected to go to leads as often as possible, but they're not formally assigned to the leads committee until their full 6-month term. So then just let them know after that, it's typically every other 6 months that you're actually assigned to leads. But letting them know it's a great place to go for training. I mean, you guys know the drill with that. So just hammer that home with them. Show them if you can. I believe there is a copy under resources of the leads review sheet, what they'll be graded on, what the ratings look like. We had a long conversation in the last training about how, because we are down on membership, we're now being rated about every 4 months, which has skewed our numbers. So people are freaking out a little bit that to get a meets rating, they need about 200 direct leads in a 4-month period. So now it's like become, pretty significant. So one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to change the numbers for the time being, or if things go well, which if you guys come Thursday, you're going to hear we're having a big membership push drive over the next couple of months. If we get the number of new members that we're hoping for, we won't need to do that. We'll be able to go back and it will work its way back to sort of the 6-month rotation. So I think Bob's been telling everyone at the leads committee to take the numbers that are shown on the sheet and multiply it by 1.5, and that's closer to what that person's actual numbers would be. But it gets confusing for people. So I've always kind of broken it down for the new members, let's just say 200 direct leads in 6 months. That's 26 weeks. So about 10 a week is what I tell people, so if you can come up with 10 direct leads a week, that seems a little more manageable. I think at first it's like, oh my gosh, 200, I'm never going to get that. So kind of just break it down for them, remind them that it can be as easy as going to a Blazer game or telling your neighbor who just, broke their garage door, hey, you should reach out to my friends at Overhead Door. Like all of those things constitute leads. It's not just a warm, direct email or handoff. Like, most of us are raised to understand leads in a different way than I think Portland Execs looks at leads. So just talk them through some of those details. I think that will help kind of take some of that anxiety out of the whole leads process for them.
Well, one of the comments I made at a board meeting, I'm not sure which, is why don't we just take the date that we have and then just backdate it 6 months? You have the numbers. But it's a suggestion,
Yeah.
just like everything. So
Well, keep suggesting, Brad, because I don't think anything has happened with that yet.
no, it hasn't been done
I
yet.
think
No,
that's a good point. Yeah.
It's
So
like,
we'll
to us, it doesn't matter. You keep consistent with 6 months of data. It doesn't matter if it overlaps at the end, but just take
Yeah.
the end date that you want. Like I have a review coming up in a couple of weeks. Well, whatever that end date for me is, and then 6 months prior, and there you go. But yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yes, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. I think that's a great idea, though.
Who knows?
Yeah,
You got to
exactly.
throw out ideas.
That's right.
For know what sticks and what doesn't. So
I think I mentioned this earlier. So helping the new members meet other members. So sitting with them their first few meetings is great. Actually walk them around and introduce them as much as you can. Telling them about, scheduling one-to-one meetings, getting in with their division coordinators, that kind of thing. Make sure that they know which division they're in. We're also finding that is happening because the divisions don't meet regularly. And if it gets overlooked at some point during their vetting, then just make sure that they know which division they're in. If they don't, and if they haven't met the division coordinator, which they should have by the time they meet with you guys, just if you'll facilitate that introduction, that would be great. And then just know that once someone's your mentee, they're going to be your mentee forever, as long as they're in the group. I mean, I still think Jeff as my mentee, right? Like he's been in for 12 years now. And just if you would occasionally reach out, I think it will help us with our retention issue. Also, if we all do a little bit by just, staying in touch. If you hear something that, the person's struggling in their business or they're, struggling personally or whatever, share it with someone on the board just to keep a heads up. We've got kind of a list of, at-risk members just so that we can do as much as we can in hopes of at least understanding why they're leaving rather than just having someone not show up and never come back. So whatever you can do to just stay in touch, check in every couple months in the first year. And then after that, just occasionally, and just help us sort of with this whole retention issue. I think that'll be really helpful. Does that all make sense?
Yes. Shelley, is there a way to, I guess I don't want to say automate, but track? We've had situations where we've lost a member, and that member that we lost was a mentor for someone, and then that wasn't backfilled in a timely manner. Yep. Because I've recognized there were a couple people I said, who's my mentor? I don't even know who my mentor is anymore. So yep. that is a gap in our process. Is the checklist when someone leaves Portland Execs, here are the things that we have, it opens up their category. It needs to reassign whoever they were a mentor for, that kind of thing, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. We'll do some follow-up with that and try to figure out. Yeah, I don't know, we can automate it as much as at least know, okay, here's the 5 things we need to do when someone leaves, right? Yeah. Here's the things we need to check and do. So yes, that's good.
And it's a great example, and you dug through that pretty aggressively, was when we had 6 members that had joined within the last year and no one knew who their mentor was.
Well, right? And I'll tell you a little bit about, so this onboarding position, it's tough. There's a lot of moving parts. You're trying to, schedule, mentee. So we're getting our arms around it. We're formalizing it. We now have this list of mentors that, whoever's in this position is going to go to this list, see who is not assigned. And we're going to keep this ongoing for a while, right? So that we'll know, okay, Adrian has Ryan Fay, and here's what's, his new member introduction was done on this date. So that hadn't been happening. And as with all of these positions, you get some people who, put the time in to really keep track and stay on top of it. And then you have other people who are just maybe, I don't know, organization is a struggle and they just are busy and they just don't take the time to do it. So that's what's hard. We're trying to get to the point where there's more consistency term over term and everybody understands what they're supposed to do. And And it just needs to get communicated. I mean, at the end of the day, that's part of the issue. So, and holding each other accountable, right? All of the chairs of the various committees need to, if someone's not doing their job and they're not signing the mentors, then like if I'm not doing my job, Patrick as the membership chair should know, Bob should know, Jeff should know as the chair. Like it's up to them to say, come on, Shelley, what's up? You know, don't let it go the whole term with nobody saying anything and then finding out, oh, this didn't get done. So
Yeah, I
we're
think
trying to do better.
I think we're pretty good. I think, at least from my experience, we're fairly good at that. At least people, when my father fell and then my father-in-law passed away, people did, you know, Scott, are you taking care of this or not? You know, that kind of thing. And so I think people have respect and
Yeah.
prioritize that. That's how I look at it.
Good. I'm glad. Any other questions? I'll send this out to you guys. And what we're also going to start doing is we're going to send this to the mentor and the mentee. So the mentee is going to also have this list. So they're going to know, okay, do I know all these things? Did we talk about all these things? So just know that it's going to go to both people. But I'll send you guys so that you have it too, just to have.
So Shelley, I missed at the beginning and I apologize. I had a call overlap, but did we talk about the profile for a new member?
We did.
And okay, because
Yep.
I noticed sometimes there's been some confusion with new members coming aboard. They're like, well, my new profile or my profile is not up to date. There's this and that. So guiding them through that is essential.
Yeah, I was going to say, make sure that you're at least one of the meetings, you're sitting with them in front of their screen and showing them where to go. And with the profile, Brad, I just wanted to let everybody know that you can get in and change your email and your phone number and your name and your picture. What you can't change is what your company does and what leads you want. So that has to be done. So that information, just send it to Bob and Laura, and then they'll update that piece for you.
For example, mine, I don't know where they're getting the download data from, but my profile's correct, but the resource page spreadsheet, my phone number's off one digit. I'm like, oh, great. I got to let them know.
Oh, yeah, you do. You definitely do. Yeah, I found somebody had a typo in their email address the other day, someone I was trying to get a hold of. So anyway, we'll get it figured out. But
and it might be a manual process, so but yeah. So
yeah,
just making sure they're on track. So perfect. Thank you for doing this.
Yes, of course. I'm going to stop